Chris Gelser here with just me. Unfortunately, Matt is, well, fortunately for Matt, he is on vacation. We attempted to line up some guests. Things didn't quite pan out. But I'm not going to leave you in the lurch, fans. I gotta work that out. This week in the first run, I'm going to share my thoughts with you about the brand new 2020 Fantasy Island film by Blumhouse Pictures. It's even, I think, featured as Blumhouse's Fantasy Island. There's their big swing at the plate to start a whole new franchise with a property from the TV show back in the day with Ricardo Montalban. You may know him as Khan. We'll talk about it. We're also going to discuss Banana Splits. Another long dormant property gets its big screen adaptation. So to go along with all of that, I'm going to share with you my 5 favorite, I think, shows from the 70s that need a big screen reboot. And then, of course, we'll tell you what's coming up on home video this week, February 25th. And I'll tell you what your straight-to-DVD pick of the week is and what you should stream this weekend. So let's start everything off with a clip from Fantasy Island.
Good evening. I am Mr. Rourke, the ambassador to your deepest desires. Let me officially welcome you to Fantasy Island.
We were all just discussing how this works exactly.
You will know soon enough, and I promise you will not be disappointed. The island has 2 rules. There is only 1 fantasy per guest, and 2, you must see your fantasy through to its natural conclusion, no matter what.
Well, why wouldn't we?
Because fantasies rarely play out as you or I might expect, but they always play out exactly as they should.
Not even you know how they're gonna go?
Only the island knows. I am but its humble steward.
You gotta love yourself some Michael Peña. He always brings a little something to every role he's in. Always a lot of fun to watch. This film also features Maggie Q, Lucy Hale, and some people I'm not that familiar with. And of course, the great Michael Rooker has an appearance in this film. Speaking of appearances, Matt will be here in some capacity throughout the show, so I'm not going to leave you hanging. You'll get a little bit of Matt as we play. Even though he's on vacation, he was kind enough to fill in and send me some stuff, so don't worry. So, Fantasy Island. Directed by Jeff Wadlow. He also wrote it with Chris Roach and Jillian Jacobs. And it feels like there were a couple dozen writers on this thing. It definitely has this kind of written by committee feel to it. I don't even know where to begin with this. It's a disaster from start to finish. I appreciate maybe they're trying to kind of capture the episodic nature of the show. You know, every week there's a new fantasy type of a thing. We have our different cast members and they go and do their own fantasies, but of course there's a twist at the end. But it's so convoluted in its attempt to build tension and deliver these twists and turns that it's dull. It just meanders for long stretches of time. There are no scares in this thing. It's when they show up, they're cliche. There's even a Jason jumping out of a lake style scare jump in this thing. It's a disaster. Peña can't save this thing. It's dead on arrival. It's a true shame because I really think this could have been a franchise. There's something different every time out, like what they tried to do with Halloween Part 3, right? Every year there was going to be a new thing, but people revolted and ended up being, if not the best, one of the best Halloween sequels of all of them. I think you have a real opportunity here for a Fantasy Island series, but instead you're going to deliver this just drudge, this horrible, horrible thing. I don't understand how this went so bad. So I'm sitting here for an hour and 49 minutes just waiting for a tsunami to come by and just wipe out every single one of these people. It is just from start to finish. It's inept. It's dull. It's dumb. With some truly bad performances. There's a tattoo thing here that comes back that is just... every decision is just wrong. And it's a real waste of your time. I'm not sure. Matt, what are your thoughts?
You're absolutely right.
Thank you. So I'm going to give Fantasy Island a D. I wanted to give it an F, but Michael Peña he just kind of squeaks it over the line for me. Barely. But outside of that, it's, even now when I think about the plot of this thing, if you had a chance to see Fantasy Island, shoot us an email, feedback@thefirstrun.com. Let us know your thoughts. I'm telling you, folks, don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. It's not good. It's dull and incessantly dumb. So thanks a lot. Let's spend a few minutes now. Let's take a breather, everybody. Just catch your breath. And let's talk about what's coming up on home video this upcoming Tuesday, February 25th.
Thank you all for getting together like this. It isn't legally necessary, but I thought because you're all in town and some of you are leaving soon.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to gently request that you all stay in town until the investigation is completed.
Well, he's gently requesting, but I'm gonna have to make that an order. No one move until we figure this all out.
What? Can we ask why? Has something changed?
No.
No, it hasn't changed, or no, we can't ask?
Mr. Stevens, you may continue.
There's, of course, Daniel Craig, and he's spot-on classic Southern accent in Rian Johnson's Knives Out. That scene also features Frank Oz, which I was very excited about when he showed up on the screen. So Knives Out is getting its big home release. If you get it from Best Buy, you get a steel book that kind of looks like a leather-bound novel. Target has Hook, Line, and Sinker, the unpublished Thrombey novel mentioned in the film. There's audio commentary by Rian Johnson, as well as the director of photography Steve Yedlin and actor Noah Segan. Noah, of course, who played Dode in Brick and has been in, I believe, most of Johnson's films. There's an 8-part documentary on the making of the movie as well, a couple deleted scenes, and more. For the kids, Frozen 2 is getting its home video release. Best Buy has a steelbook, Target a digibook. Walmart has a digipack with 2 exclusive digital bonuses you can only watch through their Vudu application. There's a sing-along version of the film. There are 6 deleted scenes, 2 deleted songs. You can skip right to just the songs. There's some Easter eggs as well. There are a bunch of features on this thing. So if you're a fan of Frozen 2, you will be pleased with this release. Richard Stanley's Color Out of Space. He did that, I'm saying it's a B movie. I don't think it's quite fair. That low-budget sci-fi horror film, Hardware. And then he did something else after that. Dust Devil? Yeah. I apologize, Mr. Stanley. But he was also unceremoniously fired from the Island of Dr. Moreau remake. And there's supposedly, I haven't seen it, a really great documentary about everything that went wrong on that film. His latest film, Color Out of Space, featuring Nicolas Cage, which is a H.P. Lovecraft adaptation, is getting its release. It's supposed to be pretty good from what I heard. End of the Century by Lucio Castro is coming out as well. 2 men meet in Barcelona after spending a day together, and they realize they met 20 years ago. Into Blu-ray, Criterion is giving us 3 fantastic journeys by Karel Zeman. Journey to the Beginning of Time, Invention for Destruction, and the fabulous Baron Munchausen. 4K restorations for all 3 films. New programs with animation filmmaker John Stevenson and special effects artist Phil Tippett and Jimmy Apparel. This is where they discuss director Zellman and his complex visual trickery. 4 early short films of the director: A Christmas Dream, A Horseshoe for Luck, Inspiration, and King Lavra. Film Adventure, Zeman, a 2015 documentary about the director as well. Some short documentaries about his museum, a U.S. release version of Journey to the Beginning of Time from 1960. There is a bunch of stuff here. Criterion is also giving us Paris is Burning, a chronicle of New York's drag scene in the 1980s, focusing on balls, voguing, and the ambitions and dreams of those who gave its era the warmth and vitality. A new 2K restoration of that, supervised by the director Jenny Livingston. A new conversation between Livingston, Ball community members Saul Pendavis and Freddie Pendavis, and filmmaker Thomas Allen Harris. Over an hour of never-before-seen outtakes, audio commentary from 2005, and more. I think we may have mentioned this before, but I think it got bumped to the 25th. Scream Factory is releasing Pet Cemetery 2. This is one with Clancy Brown and Edward Furlong, a brand new 4K master of the film from the original camera negative. Approved by director Mary Lambert, a new commentary by her, new interviews with Furlong and Brown, and more. Arrow is releasing the One Missed Call trilogy. All get high-definition Blu-ray 1080p transfers. That doesn't sound particularly promising. A new audio commentary on One Missed Call by Miike biographer Tim Mess. The Making of One Missed Call, an hour-long archival documentary. A bunch of other stuff here as well. If you're a fan of the One Missed Call series, there's One Missed Call music video. There's a bunch of stuff in here. So, of course, Takashi Miike's film. Hot Dog, the movie. This is one of those sex comedies at the ski lodge. There's a brand new 4K restoration of this one. I guess this would be kind of the archetype, the big one of those films. Warner Archive has given us Victory, which is a Stallone, Michael Caine film in World War II. Nazi officers come with a propaganda event. This is the big soccer game film there. All James Bond films starring Daniel Craig, outside, of course, No Time to Die. We'll get 4K releases this week. I don't know what to do about this. Am I going to upgrade at some point? Very likely. Do I wait for a box set, though? I never have previously. I'm not sure. Another thing, too, I was thinking about Bond. I read that this film was supposed to change the character forever. And I'm going to tell you what I'm terrified of. I'm just going to get this out on tape and plant my flag. I think they may go with one of the fan theories that, if you know the series, doesn't work. But the series that is the James Bond is a code name. And you pass it on from agent to agent. And I'm thinking they may do that with this film. Because are they going to reboot again? The whole conceit of this film and the last one was that he was older, retired, not really able to come back and gets pulled out to do one last job type of a thing. So are they going to reboot again in 3 years? Or are they going to pass on the name? I'm not going to like that. Just reboot it. And what I think what it'll do is if they do it that way, I wonder if it'll tank. I mean, obviously it all depends on who gets involved and how the film does. But if it doesn't do well, maybe they'll do a Bobby Ewing thing. Boy, I'm probably dating myself with that reference. And just start all over again. But we'll see. Finally, getting a 4K release is the classic Hunt for Red October. The first in the Jack Ryan films. This is the one film with Alec Baldwin in the Jack Ryan role. And it features, of course, Sean Connery doing his Scottish Russian thing. Your straight DVD pick of the week is Adventure Boys with a Z. When England's largest castle is robbed by a notorious crime boss, the last thing he and his criminal gang expected, Matt, are you still there? How do you think we're doing so far?
You're absolutely right.
I thank you. Well, I guess that doesn't work. He and his criminal gang expected to be up against were two boys on BMX and their speedway racing dad. That's right. A couple BMX guys are going to break up a castle hostage robbery type thing. Your streaming pick of the week, I'm going to go with Anthony Minghell's The Talented Mr. Ripley, starring Matt Damon, Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow, P.S. Hoffman, and Cate Blanchett. This film actually was out when I was running that movie theater, and I adored it. It is a great little film. If you haven't seen The Talented Mr. Ripley, it is currently streaming on Netflix, so check it out. Let's keep rolling, and I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. I really think Matt planned this. Let's talk about the banana splits.
Where's Drooper? Does anybody have a 20 on Drooper? Damn it, do I have to do everything?
Rebecca, you got a minute?
No, I don't. We're about to start and I'm a split short.
Okay. Well, I was gonna do this gently, but since you're in a rush, I'm canceling the show.
What?
Yeah, you probably heard about my promotion this morning.
No, I didn't. I'm a little busy, Andy.
Oh, are you? Well, I'm the vice president of programming now. And the Banana Splits doesn't really represent my vision for the network.
Are you kidding? We're still a huge hit.
Yeah, but it's old and stupid. And I want to do something cool and edgy, so today's your last show.
But we have tapings lined up for weeks.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. So The Banana Splits was a children's show by Hanna-Barbera. Flintstones, Hanna-Barbera. Back in the late 60s. I think it ran from 68 to 70. He had 4 characters. There was, a dog and a lion and stuff. And it was weird. Okay. So, this property has been dormant for quite a long time. And Sci-Fi gets together with, I guess it's Warner Brothers? I don't know. Blue Ribbon Content and Blue Ice Pictures are the ones that made it. They get together and they update it, but they turn this children's show into a horror film. The Banana Splits now, instead of just being actors in costumes, are robots. And the show, as you just heard, is about to get canceled. And they don't like that. Something happens and some switch gets flipped. Wrong thing goes in a charge of a battery or some software update. That's what it is. There's a software update that goes bad and malfunctions. And the splits decide to eliminate like HAL 9000, but better? No, worse. Definitely worse. So, again, another fun idea is to take a well-established-ish property from back in the day, update it, and then make it into a horror film. But we got almost Asylum level stuff here. If you're not familiar, Asylum does a lot of these knockoff horror films. So if there's going to be a popular thing, they'll do kind of like a cheapy version of it and rush and get it out to kind of cash it on the publicity. I can't decide if it's worse than Fantasy Island. There are some intermittent gore effects, but that's about it, that are quite good. In fact, there's really, I think, one that's really worth watching if you're into that kind of thing. And I think they spent all their money really on acquiring the property and then cutting that one guy in half. But that's it. All the characters are too shallow and are entirely two-dimensional. And the film really is just trying to mine this nostalgia to try and get you on its side. And it's not good enough. I'm not biting. It just doesn't work. It's not really that funny. It's not entertaining. It's not that scary. Some people seem to enjoy the subversion of the property, and I guess on a technical level, I guess it's a fun idea. It's really poorly executed, unfortunately. It needed to be crazier than it is. It really needed to lean into the insanity of this whole idea, and it doesn't. It more kind of just presents to you a straightforward horror film of some robots that go bad, and that's it. I'd rather just watch Chopping Mall, right? Again, another massive disappointment. I don't know, Matt, what do you think?
You're absolutely right.
Thank you. So I think Banana Split's another D. I don't know if I want to give it an F because I still like the subversive nature of it, even though if it's not that well executed. It does have some pretty good gore shots. I don't know if maybe I'm being too serious and clinical about it. Maybe the whole point is to deliver it this way, where the characters are just cannon fodder and annoying. There's one like bad stepdad guy, and I get that's the point, but it's just so bad and so lazy and so poorly done. Really, it's just sci-fi should almost be ashamed of putting this thing out. Spend some time with it, really, and just lean in. Get really crazy with it. Unfortunately, they don't. I think you can stream this in the Sci-Fi Channel. You can rent it anywhere at this point. If you've seen the Banana Splits movie, God, it's been a dark week. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. So, rolling right along here. That's just what happens when it's just me, right? Things go a lot faster. We're cruising. We'll see if we get to a half hour. I don't know. Really, do you want to listen to just me for a half hour? I don't think I would want to do that. Let's spend a few minutes then, and I'll fill you in on what I think are 5 shows that would do well with a modern update.
They are clinging to each other in the face of the unknown, each bravely giving comfort to the other.
Why, Rourke, you are an incorrigible romantic.
If you mean that I am in love with love, you are quite right.
Don't get me wrong. I find love very useful. Without love, there would be no temptation. In my business, I couldn't get along without it.
On the contrary, love is the creative energy of the universe. Without it, life would be hell, and you would have won long ago. Someday, when all mankind really learns to love, you will finally be destroyed.
I am not the one facing destruction here. Your time is almost up.
So that is Ricardo Montalban from an episode of Fantasy Island where he goes up against the devil, played by Roddy McDowall, if you want to know how weird and crazy a show Fantasy Island was. I think he showed up a few times, too. Either way, I'm going to start off with number 5. What TV property in the 70s would I like to see a big screen adaptation of? I'm going to go with Kojak. In fact, I think about 5-6 years ago, this was actually supposed to happen. And why it hasn't, I don't know. I think it would be a lot of fun. And that is Vin Diesel playing the titular Kojak, the lollipop sucking detective. And I would just be a fun thing to see. I got to tell you one thing I'm really looking forward to is that Robert Downey Jr. produced Perry Mason show that's supposed to hit HBO, played by, is it Michael Rhys Davies? The guy from The Americans. So hopefully that'll be good. But Kojak with Vin Diesel sounds like a lot of fun. Who loves you, baby? That's Kojak. Telly Savalas. Look it up. Ask your parents. What about number 4, Chris? Well, what about Sanford and Son with Eddie Murphy playing the Red Fox role? But that was a seminal show. That was a huge, important show. And one of the funniest ever. And I really think that Eddie would be good. And you know who else would be good? But now I'm wondering if George Wallace would be a better fit or David Allen Greer. Those would be my tops. Now, as a middle-aged white guy, obviously, I'm the best one to make this decision. And for the son, Lil Rel, maybe Craig Robinson or Donald Glover. Or Carl Tart. That might be a good fit, too. Man, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's my 4. A reboot of Sanford and Son. Number 3 would be The $6 Million Man. And I think I would go with Winston Duke. Because not only is he fun and charming, but he can also be intimidating, and he's got the bulk for the role. I think it would be nice. And then we did a sister show, The Bionic Woman. I'd go with Zazie Beetz. She was in actually Fantasy Island, and I believe she was Domino in Deadpool 2. So I think a nice little update of $6 Million Man with the sci-fi action and parts with, and also so they gotta get that whole superhero thing involved with this too. I think it'd be a lot of fun. My number 2 will be Kung Fu with Iko Uwais. If you're not familiar with Iko, he was in the Raid films and a great martial artist. And I think I'd want to have an actual martial artist and an Asian guy play the role of Kung Fu this time. No offense, David Carradine. And number 1, I've thought long and hard about this. I think I'm going to go, and let me be honest with you, I realized afterwards that I had seen this online on Twitter. And I felt horrible, but it is still so good. I had to stick with it. And it is a reboot of Columbo, the classic Peter Falk show, which I think they run a bunch of them on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries of all places. And played by Natasha Lyonne. I think she would be perfect for that role. It would be a blast. Columbo, if you're not familiar, is a detective. I think he's in LA, right? He's got the cigar, and his whole thing is that he's got one more thing. So he's talking to the bad guy, whoever the perpetrator is of the murder. And the bad guy thinks they're going to get away with it. And then Columbo comes back. He's like, yeah, just one more thing. And that's when he nails him to the wall every time. It's such a blast. So there you go. We got Kojak, Sanford and Son, $6 Million Man, and The Bionic Woman, Kung Fu, and Columbo. Honorable mentions, if you follow us on Twitter, you would have already seen these. Night Gallery, Rod Serling's follow-up to The Twilight Zone. Space 1999. You're not familiar with the Martin Landau show, Space 1999. That is a fun one where there's people on the moon and there's something happens and it gets knocked out of orbit and the moon is going to be hurling through space and they're trying to do something. I don't remember. Our friends over at ScreenFix had a few. I think they actually mentioned Kung Fu. And then Love Boat. I don't know about Love Boat. I don't know. I have to think about that. I also thought about Heart to Heart. Now, granted, I know the majority of its run was in the 80s, but it did start in 79. And that I don't know if that ever happened. Heart to Heart with Anna de Armas and Chris Evans, who were both recently in Knives Out, I think would be a lot of fun. You know, from the Heart to Heart is the super rich, successful couple who solve murders. And Mrs. H, she's gorgeous. I think that would be good. What do you think, Matt?
You're absolutely right.
Thank you. And then Welcome Back, Carter. Maybe if it focused on charter schools versus public education. WKRP, maybe funny, dealing with kind of the state of the music industry today. Faulty Towers with Steve Coogan I thought about, but that is such a John Cleese role, I don't know. If you do a race swap on Different Strokes. Taxi, focusing on Uber and Lyft. Green Acres, I thought about. Hogan's Heroes, which is a show you could never do today. And then finally, just because it would never happen, that's why I didn't make my list. But it's my honorary, I guess, number 6. Or if I'm feeling particularly inappropriate, it'd be my number 1. and that is the Dukes of Hazzard, but this time they're running meth instead of moonshine. It's a whole new spin on the show. I don't know. That sounds... I think it would be awesome and horrible. What do you think, Matt?
You're absolutely right.
So I think that's going to be it. We got Kojak, Sanford & Son, $6 Million Man, Slash Bionic Woman, Kung Fu, and Columbo. And then maybe we sneak in a Breaking Bad spin-off, Dukes of Hazzard. What 70s TV shows would you like to see adapted to the big screen? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. I know it's a truncated show, folks. I do apologize. We just didn't have a second guest this week, or a host for that matter. So I just wanted to give you a little tent. I didn't want to leave you hanging and thirsty for that tent. I know that's what it's all about. Coming up next week, well, Emma is out, but The Lodge went wide here. And showing, unfortunately, a lot farther away than I'm comfortable with, but I may still go see it, is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. My second favorite film of 2019, which I will make Matt watch, though we still haven't watched One Cut of the Dead, so we'll see how on board he is with that. In the interim, check us out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, YouTube. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually you will find us. And going over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review, but not on the strength of this episode, because obviously it's just me blabbing on for 20 minutes or a half hour. And you could do so much better. Well, we could do so much better. In fact, listen to the last week's show. It was actually really good. And that's it. So we're going to go ahead and the Royal We are going to go ahead and take an extended break. And the stinger this week is from another episode of Fantasy Island that I stumbled across while putting the show together this week. So enjoy whatever the hell this is about. Have a good week. We'll see you soon.
Does that mean you're just going to continue to be slave hookers?